Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of TGC Talks. I am your host, Bhupendra Singh. In the last episode, we spoke about coarse climate and microclimates, how trees quietly change sunlight, airflow, humidity, and temperature, and how tough responds not to effort alone, but to the environment it lives in. Today, we move forward because once microclimate changes, water behavior changes too. And this is where many misunderstandings begin. Even within the same golf course, water behaves very differently in different climatic zones. And because of this, water management in landscaped golf courses is fundamentally different from water management in open golf courses. This subtle difference is often missed, and when it is missed, water becomes the most blamed, misunderstood element on the course. So today we focus on two closely connected elements: trees and water, which includes drainage and irrigation. And when we talk about water on golf courses in India, how can we ignore monsoon? Because monsoon does not just bring rain, it brings persistent cloud cover, high humidity, reduced sunlight hours, and extremely narrow recovery windows for turf. So this episode is about understanding why water behaves the way it does in landscaped golf courses, especially under Indian climatic conditions. Let me begin by clearing the biggest myth. Drainage does not dry turf. Drainage only removes excess water from the soil profile. Drying happens through sunlight, airflow, evaporation, transpiration. If these processes are restricted, even the most expensive drainage system will struggle. So when we hear we have drainage but the course is still wet, very often drainage is not failing. The environment is limiting drying. And in landscaped golf courses, that environment is strongly controlled by trees. This misunderstanding alone leads to repeated drainage upgrades, unnecessary capital expenditure, and disappointment when nothing changes. Let me be clear, it is true that trees are not the only factor in landscaped golf courses. Other elements also influence turf health, and they could be the dominant factor as well for poor turf conditions, like soil profile, construction anomalies, organic matter accumulation, traffic patterns, disease and insect pressure in specific climate zones, but they can often be diagnosed and corrected with sound agronomy. But when severe tree overcast is added to such climates, the struggle of turf becomes a battle. Trees remove recovery capacity. They amplify every weakness, and they often remain unnoticed. Here is where things get tricky. Drainage is designed to move free water, not water that is trapped on the surface or held by constant humidity. In shaded, tree-dominated areas, evaporation is slow, surface remains damp, oxygen exchange reduces. So even though water may be moving below ground, the surface never dries. To the golfer, it looks like drainage is poor. To the committee, it sounds like we need more drainage. But the real issue is this: drying mechanisms are blocked. Adding more drainage pipes cannot fix a lack of sunlight and airflow. This is where many courses spend money without solving the real problem. Rain does not suddenly damage turf. Rain reveals weak drying zones. If rains alone was the problem, damage would be random across the course. But that's not what we see. On most golf courses, the same greens struggle every monsoon. The same fairway pockets stay soft. The same approaches fail repeatedly. That tells us something important. What fails every year is not the weather. It is uneven microclimates and perhaps missed agronomic practices. In India, monsoon rains are uneven for sure. I have worked in golf courses that receives rainfall as low as few hundred millimeters with only few rainy days, to golf courses that crosses even 6,000 millimeter of rains and more than 4 months of continuous rain days. In some areas, it is continuous downpours, while in other areas there are intermittent rains and prolonged drizzles and cloud cover. So, different management approaches are required to tackle such varied rainy environments. Attention has to be high in areas where there are light showers, drizzle, high humidity, and cloud cover for long periods. These are the conditions that prevent turf from ever resting. Even on days without rain, surfaces remain wet because evaporation never accelerates. This is why no rain days doesn't always mean drying. Irrigation reductions don't always help, and disease pressure keeps building. Monsoons does not necessarily overwhelm turf in one event. It may slowly exhaust its recovery capacity. In India, the challenge is not just monsoon rains, it is what follows. In many regions, especially in northern parts of India, winter begins immediately after monsoon. If turf enters winter weak and stressed, recovery becomes extremely difficult. Winter brings reduced sunlight, prolonged cloud covers, and high disease pressure. At the same time, golf traffic increases, so pre-monsoon planning becomes critical. But every year there is a short window before the monsoon arrives. This window decides the entire season. This is when airflow could be improved, shade impact could be reduced, weak zones could be protected, expectations could be reset. But this window is often missed, because turf still looks acceptable, because play is ongoing, because decisions are postponed, and once monsoon begins, options reduces dramatically. At that point, courses are no longer managing turf, they are reacting to the stress. If that window is missed, blaming monsoons become easy. So the monsoon is not the villain of Indian golf. It is the stress test. It asks one simple question: how quickly can this area dry and recover? Open areas answers quickly. Tree-dominated microclimates struggle. This is why a course may look acceptable in May, June, but collapses by August and September. Not because of rain, but because of drying never keeps up. Monsoons are yearly phenomena and microclimatic patterns repeat. So next time when you hear the cliche, "This year monsoon was really bad, we are left with no turf to play in winters," just pause and ponder. Did we miss something pre-monsoon? The rain didn't destroy everything. It exposed where turf could not recover. Most people look for puddles when turf issue rises. But turf rarely fails because of standing water. It fails because of persistent moisture. The surface feels soft, spongy, greasy. Roots suffer because oxygen availability drops. Respiration reduces. Root systems remain shallow. There may be no visible flooding at all. Yet turf declines steadily. This is why drainage is often blamed, even when the real issue is slow surface and subsurface drying. Trees influence water in two opposing ways. First, they reduce sunlight, they restrict airflow, they trap humidity, and at the same time, tree roots aggressively compete with turf for water. So turf ends up wet on the surface and stressed below the surface. This creates a paradox. Turf looks wet, yet behaves stressed. Adding more water worsens the problem, and adding more drainage doesn't solve it, because the imbalance remains. You cannot drain what never dried. Most golf courses irrigate uniformly because irrigation systems are designed for efficiency, not microclimate. But environments are not uniform. Open areas dry faster, lose moisture quickly, while shaded areas dry slowly, retain moisture longer. One irrigation schedule across the course does not serve the purpose. It may overwater shaded zone and undersupport open zones. During monsoons, blanket irrigation shutdowns often worsens the situation because shaded zones stay wet anyway, while open zones dry excessively. Irrigation must follow microclimate, not convenience. So what does differential agronomic management mean? It does not mean complexity, it means recognition. Recognition that not all turf areas recover equally. Not all zones tolerate the same stress. Some areas need less water, reduced stress, and longer recovery windows. Other areas may tolerate firmer conditions, higher traffic, more aggressive maintenance. Uniform treatment creates uneven failure. Protecting weak zones is not lowering standards, it is intelligent turf management. So today we understood that water problems are rarely water problems. They are the result of microclimate, drying capacity, uniform management, drainage, irrigation, and trees. Drainage, irrigation, and trees are one integrated system. Fixing one without addressing the others leads to frustration. Well, before I close, let me leave you with a question. We have been talking about trees for the last 2 episodes, but what exactly is a tree? Is a small plant a tree? Are shrubs also trees? Do tree laws apply to every plant? Who decides? What is the definition of a tree? Think about it. Put your thoughts in the comments and check the next episode to find the answers and perhaps many more questions. It is true that even with information, many golf courses still struggle. Perhaps because often the challenges lies just not on the course but also in the committee rooms. But we must endeavor continuously to create awareness. After all, awareness leads to knowledge, and knowledge leads to right decisions, which has the power to shape the sustainability of golf courses. So in the next episode of TGC Talks, we'll talk about trees as an element of golf course layout, their placement and impact on the game of golf, major tree laws of India, and tree management principles for successful golf courses. With all this, I'll aim to wrap up our discussion on trees in the next episode. However, if you have questions or if you'd like me to continue delving deeper into tree topics for few more episodes, do leave a comment. Share your thoughts. Thank you for watching. I am Bhupendra Singh. This is TGC Talks. See you in the next episode.